Welcome to the Unwashed Asses, episode 129, recorded for Saturday, September 21st, 2019. Oh, sorry, very thirsty. You'd think we would just edit that out, but no, we're not. Fuck it, we'll do it live. What are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to talk Borderlands 3, yet another video game episode. So, if it's not your jam, tune out. It's okay. I understand. I appreciate you. I still love you for listening. But you can tap out. So, Borderlands 3 released last Thursday. So, we're not this past Thursday, but Thursday before. A little bit of over a week in. Unless you're a reviewer that got an early copy, and then you have essentially 2 weeks of progress, and it's infuriating to read article after article saying, this is there, and this is that, and here's what endgame content looks like, which is nice, but it makes me feel like, as somebody who bought it, literally the day it came out, like I'm already behind the curve. So that's a bit aggravating, because, I mean, level cap is 50, and I'm still only like 23, not even halfway through. I don't know where I'm at in the story. So today we're just going to be doing a very rough overview or preview of it. Once I've been liking this video game review series where essentially I can churn through a game like I do with Spider-Man and God of War, do a preview, kind of first impressions, and then once I've beaten the game and essentially gotten comfortable with my knowledge of it, then I can do a full-on review. So that's what this one's going to be, just a preview. And oh man, there's a lot to get into with Borderlands. The first one came out and it essentially invented the genre of the looter shooter, where my heart has been wholly taken. I'm very fidgety. I'm very hungry right now, and like all I'm thinking about is food, and then playing Borderlands. But it's like I've got so much to do. I have to be an adult. Let's get that shit done first. This is part of being the adult, is talking about a video game that I just want to stop recording the show and then go play. Loved the first Borderlands. It was one of my favorite titles. It like I said, invented the looter shooter genre, and it created a world in which Destiny would come about, and Destiny being probably my favorite ongoing game series, wouldn't have happened if not for Borderlands. I'm a firm believer in that. So the first one came out Xbox 360, took a more adult tone. Yeah, there were raunchy, immature jokes, but it was a hyper-violent game dressed as a cartoon, essentially, thanks to the cell shading. And a little while later, we had the second one come out, and the second one was met with very much commercial and critical success. I didn't care for it as much. I felt that the writing was very immature. Large part of it is I'm not a fan of the Birches, Anthony and Ashley, of Hey Ash, what you playing? So a lot of that really just kind of fell flat for me. Didn't care for it. Didn't get any of the DLC. Whereas the first one, absolutely loved every bit of the DLC. Even the last one with Atlas and Athena, where it was just a lot of driving around the desert. The Halloween, the zombie island of Dr. Zed, still holds up as one of the best bits of DLC, especially Halloween-themed DLC. Then after that, we got the pre-sequel, which I'm not a fan of prequels to begin with. And even though I wanted to try it, the game never really goes on sale. The lowest I've ever really seen it was $40, and for essentially a game that got fairly, not scathing reviews, but definitely not positive, I just never got around to it. And then the same for the Telltale game, which, I mean, Telltale games were alright, but they're not really my cup of tea. So that leads us into Borderlands 3. Loved the first one, didn't like the second one, didn't play the other two. Now we're here. And I gotta say, not a whole lot's changed. Now, to give some context, I'm, of course, playing it on PC. It has an exclusive launch on the Epic Store for PC. We're not going to see it available on Steam until next year. I think it's like a 6-month window. Of course, you can also get it on console, Xbox, or PS4. But there was a lot of outrage about this exclusivity deal. A lot of people hating Epic. I'm not going to get into that. So it is available. But I had played the first Borderlands on both Xbox and PC. Same thing for Borderlands 2. So Borderlands 3, getting into it on PC, I was shocked at how bad the controls were, or how I hadn't adjusted to it. And this is going to be largely based on Destiny. There's going to be a lot of comparisons here. Destiny has kind of ruined me for other shooters in the sense that it is so polished and refined, and the overall gameplay loop of every 30 seconds, I'm shooting, I'm reloading, I'm jumping, I'm using abilities, is so expertly crafted that anything less than is just that. And it stands in stark contrast to an overall sublime experience that Destiny provides. So when I go back to a game that essentially pioneered this, and I see that they've not really done much to help their cause or advance or evolve, it's disappointing. Granted, I had played Borderlands 2 recently and absolutely abhorred the shooting, whereas in 3 I finally have come around, but that's only thanks to large amounts of tinkering. Tried going keyboard and mouse, could not do keyboard and mouse. It felt like like I gave a toddler a nice big old dose of cocaine, and it's nothing but spastic hyper movement. Controller was the exact opposite. It felt like I was moving through sloth moving through molasses, because I couldn't figure out where to find the adjust the controller sensitivity, because when you go into the menus, which are a convoluted mess and are not easy to navigate at all, be it your character inventory, adjusting settings, nothing's where you think it should be. And the aiming down sights was not in the controller settings, it was more an accessibility thing. Also, accessibility option to adjust how, because in Borderlands 3 we now have the option to clamber up onto things. So in previous games you couldn't, say, jump at a ledge, catch it, and pull your character up. You either had to make the jump or you didn't. With the clamber mechanic, it doesn't really work that way. You have to, by default, look at it, jump, and then grab it. In accessibility, there is an option to clamber while moving forward, which you'd think would just be the normal intuitive way to do things. So after adjusting the controller sensitivity, turning that on, the game suddenly became playable. Now, but this is at least half a dozen hours in before I finally found this option. Additionally, the vehicles control like absolute garbage, and the whole travel mechanic in the game itself is just terrible. Because they haven't, if they have learned anything, they haven't implemented it in the game. And that's my biggest problem with Borderlands 3 at the moment, is that it is stuck in history. It hasn't advanced, it hasn't evolved, it hasn't learned lessons from other games. It's like, okay, well, we're Borderlands, this is just more Borderlands. Which, if that's what you want, is more Borderlands, fantastic. Borderlands 3, absolutely 100% guaranteed, delivers on that. But if you were hoping for more, you're going to be sorely disappointed. And it walks that fine line between enjoyment and disappointment, because you realize there have been so many quality of life improvements with other games that you just don't see here. Namely, the menus and navigation system is still the exact same one as what you had before. Turning a game from private to public is not intuitive. Getting rewards or email in the game isn't a totally separate menu than what you would expect. Pressing essentially the back button will bring up your quest objectives, your gear, your overall Vault Hunter progress. Pressing start brings up the social, where you can adjust that multiplayer setting, where you can check the email from different vendors that are sending you guns, where you can redeem your shift codes and get your golden keys. It's all just terrible. Terrible. And comparing weapons one to the other is a mess. It really is in desperate need of an overhaul that I don't think is ever going to come. Adding into that is the travel. This is the first game where we are able to go from one planet to the other, essentially opening up Borderlands. For the first 2 games, you were stuck on Pandora. Pre-sequel, you were on a moon of Pandora. And I really got out of it. Now we're moving to different planets and different zones and planets. But whereas a game like Destiny is very easy to pull open the director and view the different planets, and then go to that planet and view the different spots you want to spawn at. You spawn in, you hop on your Sparrow, you go where you want to go, unless it's Mercury. Borderlands has it broken up in a way that is just completely unfriendly to use. First, you have to go use the back button to get into the menus. Go to the map. Map pulls up where you're at instead of just an overall orbit view. Back out to orbit view. Tab down to find the planet you want to go to. Find the section you want to go to. And then from that section, you only have 1 spawn point. And depending on that section of the map, there may or not be vehicles available to you. So at that point, you have to then go find the catch a ride station, generate your vehicle, and then go. If that vehicle gets destroyed, there's no instant reconstruction. You can't just pop out a Sparrow like you would in Destiny. You have to make the long, arduous trek back, and it's just painful. On top of that, controlling the vehicles isn't intuitive at all. Using the camera to turn it, it doesn't feel right at all. And it really just screams of dated game style mechanics and play that's like, why did you leave this the way it was? On top of that, the game overall looks very much the same as it had. I mean, the cell shading is what has helped Borderlands 1 and 2 age as well as they have. Any game that takes a more artistic or cartoonish, look, something that's not hyper realistic, is always going to age better. And in this case, I know we have a new engine running Borderlands 3, but it doesn't look terribly different. It's just a lot denser. And additionally, because of that density and all the cell shading happening, I'm having a hard time picking out enemies inside of a fight where they just blend into the background, and I'm reliant on that mini-map to tell me where an enemy is so I can shoot them. It's a problem that has plagued me from start to my current position, which I don't even know where I'm at if I'm halfway in. I've put at least 12 hours into the game. Can I see a playtime count? Library. Settings. I've played 23 hours so far. I still have a hard time pinpointing enemies and shooting them. It's awful. It is terrible. And I don't remember having this problem before. Where I lose them. I will see a health bar, but I can't find the enemy itself. Getting into that, the gunplay itself feels alright enough. Like I said, it's better than it was in Borderlands 2, but it's still not refined or smooth or as polished as something like Destiny. They changed the mapping for the controller where you could use the D-pad to select between all 4 of your weapons and pick the one you want. They've gotten rid of that. Now you just have to constantly weapon cycle to get the one you want, which is not good. You can modify it, but then you also lose other functionality like changing your current quest objective. But I guess aside from all that, the other issue I have is still with the writing. We have 2 new characters playing the bad guys. We have the Calypso twins, which are the embodiment of streamer personality. Essentially, they've banded all the bandits together and they're searching for the Great Vaults, and it's a matter of us reuniting all the Vault Hunters that pass. And it should play like a greatest hits where we have these heroic moments and we're playing with the characters we've played in the past and really getting an overall epic grand story. But because of the immaturity of that I believe really started with Borderlands 2. Much like the gameplay itself, the humor hasn't evolved. I was hoping for something edgy yet funny, maybe something akin to like Deadpool, where it pushes that line, but it still remains sophisticated to an extent. Whereas Borderlands is nothing but fart and poop jokes. And yeah, sometimes that's good. There are moments where the game does shine, and I'm reminded of that, like the most recent mission with Claptrap and getting rid of his pets on a ship. There are moments where it still works, but the large part of it is hampered by the just lackadaisical story writing. It's still bad. And it's kind of like, I know I've been bitching nonstop for 15 minutes here. It's still fun to play. I still enjoy it. I'm still looking forward to, like I said, I just want to stop doing this so I can go back and play it. And I don't know if it's the completionist in me or if I'm having, genuine fun with it. There are moments where, it's captured my attention. I'm really into what I'm doing. Or if it's just that I'm not playing it with friends. Borderlands is very much a game designed to be a social experience, but it's $60. I have a hard time convincing other people to buy it because of how out of date it is. Additionally, we now have this fragmentation on PC where some people are waiting for Steam because of their hate for the Epic Game Store. And overall, it's not in a good place. Now, that being all said, I think the largest reason why I'm enjoying it is different. It's something new to play. Like, I would love to go back and just spend a bunch of time in Destiny, but it feels like my time's being wasted. There's nothing more to do. And this is just an excellent holdover until we get Shadowkeep in October. And if that's the best thing about Borderlands 3, then it's a terrible thing to say about Borderlands. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. So we'll have a full review once I've gotten it beat. I don't know how much longer that's going to be. Like I said, I still want to complete the story. I'd like to get a character up to max, but right now, I was shocked at how long I've been playing it, 23 hours. It's still a slog. So that's going to wrap this episode up. We'll have another one up shortly, but if you have your own thoughts, concerns, criticisms, critiques, complaints, or just want to shoot the shit, email address is in the show notes, and please tell a friend. Let them know they can get the Unwashed Asses wherever they get their podcasts. Help the show grow. Just tell people. That's the biggest thing. But otherwise, I do appreciate you for listening. Thank you, and we will talk to you next time. Blood for the Blood God.